now that it's
There it
recording.
is. Yeah. Okay. I see it.
Now I can share the daf. So I'll share. Oh, okay, it showed up. Now all I have to do is make it a little bit bigger so that I can see it. Oh, okay. So the last thing we were discussing was the ubre dogum and the eggs of a chicken. The eggs of a bird have a simon, and that you can tell whether or not they're kosher. And the way you can tell is if it's rounded on one end and if it's more conic on the other end. Yet the Gemara says, if you have such a simon, so why do I need, when I buy an egg from a goy, why do I need it to be in such a way where the goy will have to define exactly what type of bird it came from so that I could cross-reference against it and prove him wrong. So therefore, he's afraid of being caught in a lie, and therefore he has an amonus. We can just look at the egg the way it is. So the first teretz that we had was and that was about 20 lines down or 15 lines down from the top of the daf. So today's daf is Samachdal, so it's about 15 to 20 lines down. The first word on the line is Ella Omer Abzer Simonim Lav Dairaisa. The Loite Mahachi, if you're not going to say Simonim Lav Dairaisa, Had Omer Abasi, Shmoina Sveika is saying. Rav Asi told us that there are 8 birds that are a suffix. Why are they a suffix? Live like bebeitim to do. Just check their eggs. And if they have the symptoms of a kosher egg, we know it's a kosher chicken. This leaves new meaning to the saying, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Put the egg first, then you could determine if the egg is of a kosher bird, and then you have a kosher bird. Why don't you do that? Elamai, Ela Shema Mina, Simonim Lav Deraisa. Simonim Lav Deraisa, and that is why we need to come on to the Nemanis of the Goy when he's mirsis that he'll be caught. So why did the Brisa even ever tell us anything about the way to check eggs if it's not relevant, if it cannot be relied upon? This is what the Brisa means. The Brisa means in order to trust when you're buying an egg from a guy that it's from a kosher bird, you need to combine 2 factors. And when you combine 2 factors together, then and only then can you trust this as a kosher bird or as a kosher egg. So Hachikamar, Beis Rosheh Kadim, or Beis Rosheh Chadim, or Chelmoin Mibachutz, V'Chelboin Mibafnim. No, if those are what the egg looks like, then no matter what the guy tells you, Vadai Tameya, we don't trust the guy because the eggs show symptoms of a behemoth Tameya, of an oif Tame. But Reishe Chad, Chad. But if the ratio is Chad, so Chad Reishe, I'm going to read this. Vadai Tameya, Reishe Chad, Reishe Chad. If one of its heads, one tip of the egg is sharp, so Reish Echad, if one of its edges are sharp or conic, Reish Echad and the other end of the egg, Kad, is round, so that's simon number 1. The yolk is suspended within the chalmoin, within the chalboin. The Omar Loch shall oif ploni vitar, and then if the guy tells you on an egg that has the symptoms of a egg that's from a Torah bird, and on top of that, the guy also tells you that it came from a chicken, then with all that combined, sumaych aleyan, you could be soymich on the guy. But bistama, but if the guy didn't tell you that, loy tismaych aleyan, do not rely on the guy. The Ika de Urva, the Domi Lidiyana, because the eggs of an Oirev are similar to that of a Yoina, and therefore we are afraid that you could be making a mistake. But if you combine that with the statement that the goy made, that this came from a chicken, then you could rely on it. Beautiful. So that takes care of that sugya. Now we're going to go back and drill down in this brisa that we brought to discuss the simonim of an oif Torah.
Why is it going them on this particular?
Oh, so that's a very, very good point, because driving, I was listening to Rabbi Rosner Shir. So he said you would think that the special namanas of Mirzus maybe should only apply by a Yid. Kamash Malon, sometimes a Goy has namanas. And we're going to learn later in the Masechta, there's something called the namanas of a Kfela. If you're not sure if something is nice and tam or not, like Isser, so some Isser got mixed in some heter, or milk got mixed into meat, you can let a Goy, Kfela Arma, you can allow a Goy to taste it, and we could trust him if he's Mesiach Levitumai, that he he cannot taste any milk in the meat, or vice versa. So there is an amana sometimes given to a goy. Rabbi Rosner was expanding on the sugya of the Rambam says that we could read there's certain edus isha, even though noshim and ishus is a davar chomer ad moed, it's a davar shebe'erva. Nevertheless, sometimes you'll even rely on the edus of a woman, on the edus of a goy, ulagabe being matter isha labayla. So you do find sometimes that there is an amongst given to a goy.
But there's no. What's the? He has an interest in selling those eggs. So why?
But he also has an interest in not ruining his business. And if he gets a reputation that he's not trustworthy, then it'll risk his whole business. And so it's a mirsus. That's why it's only a mirsus if he's very specific. So he knows that if he gets caught, he won't be able to weasel his way out of it.
Okay.
So yes, so I'm happy you pointed out, because it's a big chiddush. It's a chiddush we see in the mothers that there is such a thing. Okay, now there's a long Tosfos which was a very controversial issue about a fish called the barbata. Now the barbata fish, when you looked at it, it did not look like it had scales, because the fishermen would tell us that the scales fall off this fish when you take it out of the water, but in the water it has scales, and they look at the eggs of those birds, and it seemed to look like a kosher egg, and because of that, they were matir this fish called barbuta. So if we look halfway down in the Tosfos of Simonim Lav Deraisa, right near the Moshe of Rashi, Tosfos says Valzeanu Soimchen Lechel Oisen Dagim Shekurin Barbato Belaz. This is why we're allowed to eat these types of fish. Even though we weren't there to witness that the scales fell off this fish when they took it out of the water, even though while it was in the water, it had scales. But if we examine the eggs of this fish do resemble kosher eggs, and the goyim are telling us, the fishermen are telling us that this was a kosher fish. It had fins and scales, therefore you could rely on it. We cannot rely on it. So there was a very big controversy, and I believe the Or Zarua brings a story down. I don't remember with who he brings a story down from, but he brings a story down with a great gadol who was matir de barbuta, and that night he had a dream that he was sitting in Gan Eden, and the waiter in Gan Eden served him a whole plate full of shrotzim. And he got very upset. How could you serve me a plate full of shrotzim? And the waiter told him, what do you mean? You were matir this. And he woke up in a cold sweat, and he was shooken up, and he realized that he passed in that day that the barbuta was a permissible fish, and then he went in the middle of the night, and he woke up and he broke all the kalim that he had that he used with this fish. So there's a whole big controversy about that itself. Because of a dream, you could paskin halacha. Avada, there's no chance in the world that if there was any suffix that this wasn't true, he would never have been matir. So there was a huge controversy in the Rishonim whether or not this fish was allowed or not, and this is one of the stories that came out of it. So one of the places will say, you think he would have been matir? He was still negligent to be matir if he thought that it didn't have fins and scales. Elamai, he was matir. He wasn't matir frivolously. So you know what he should have done? He should have said, yeah, maybe the dream was valid, but it was valid about something else. Who said he had the right to apply it to the barbuta? Maybe the barbuta was fine. Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's another message that they're trying to teach him from Yanadel. So it was a very big controversy. Zok to Gemara. What if you have Omar Mar? Let's analyze this price of it. Omar Mar. What happens? What happens if Omar Mar chelpoin v'chelmoin v'uravin zebos? If you have an egg and the white and the yellow are mixed together, biyadua, you could take it to the bank. She beitzas asheretz. That is the egg of asheretz. Frag the Gemara, why would it be relevant for me to know that? Amar Rav Bar Chama learning to teach us. Shem rikma the mikvah. If the sheretz is already somewhat formed, and now there's a little hole in the shell of the egg, so you could touch it, then you'll become tamei. You'll become tamei. You'll become tamei for touching the sheretz. Zok to Gemara, Maskef lo Ravina. How could you be so sure? V'dilma de Nachashi. We know that the snake also has these characteristics, and if that's the case, why would you say that it's tamei? We know a Nachash is not tamei, and the Meshech Chochmah actually talks about it. The Nachash has all of these symptoms and the characteristics of the same reptiles that are considered to be shrotzim, and they're tamei when they're dead. So why is it that the Nachash is an exception to that rule? So the Meshech Chochmah suggests in his ingenuity that the Torah is chasal Yisrael, they're a. Imagine if there's a dangerous snake, we need to kill it right away. But imagine if it's a kohen who had to do a voida and he's thinking twice, oh, maybe I shouldn't kill the snake because then I'm going to become tamei, and I don't want to be tamei myself. Hashem didn't want anyone to hesitate even for a moment when it comes to removing a menace and a danger. So even though a nachash really does have the characteristics of a sheretz that should be tamei when it's dead, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, no, it's not going to be tamei. I want anyone to feel comfortable without hesitating for a moment to kill the snake. Machkef lo Ravina. Frek Ravina kasha. V'damag denachashi. El Omar Rava. Shem rikma v'achla loik Allah mishum sheretz ha-sheretz al-aretz. The chiddush of this, the reason why the Bryce is telling us that we know it's a sheretz is not for tumah, because you're right, it might be enough, but it's telling us lagabi achila. If you eat it, it's considered eating a sheretz al-aretz, and you will get malchus, and that applies even to eating a snake. Zogt Rashi hasheretz al-aretz v'loy hashemina she beites hasheretz. If the Tana of the Brisa would not have told us that this is a beites hasheretz, elo tmei stam that is tamei, havamina mishum oif tamei hudu asira. I would have thought that it's tamei because of an oif tamei, and not also to eat because of a sheretz. So what's the big deal? You get malchus anyway. You're eating something that there's an isser lav upon. Zok to Gemara, Zok Rashi, uboy lasruye bei mishum sheretz ha'oif. When you want to give somebody malchus, you have to be able to warn the perpetrator before he does the avera about what avera he's doing and what the consequences will be. But if they don't know if this is a sheretz, then they won't give him the proper warning. If it's not a sheretz haaretz and they give him a hasra for sheretz haaretz, he won't get malchus. So kamash v'lon that the hasra that they need to give a person who's about to eat such an egg has to be hasra for malchus of sheretz haaretz. Now Rashi elsewhere says even more forcefully that not only do the Edom have to be Masrahim with the right Avera, they actually have to quote the Pasuk that dictates that this Avera is awesome. So they would have to quote the right Pasuk. So here, if it's a Sheretz, they would have to say, they have to warn him for Sheretz al Aretz. Matzka V'lo Ravina. I'm sorry. Ihachi Vek the Gemara, my area, the Tmeya, I feel the Tahir Nami. You're telling me, Dafka, if it's the egg of a Tameh, of a Tmeya, Dafka there, does he get Malchus for eating it because it's a sheretz al aretz? Even if it's a kosher bird and you eat it partially developed, even if you eat it fully developed, even if you eat a fully developed bird that has already hatched of a kosher bird, it's still a sheretz. The Tanya, kol hasheretz al aretz. Turning over onto Amud Beis. Even if you eat a bird, a kosher bird that was already hatched, but it's such a little bird that its eyes haven't even opened yet, that's also going to get you malchus for eating hasheretz al aretz. Zok Gemara, true, there's malchus for that, but that's only midirabona. That's only midirabona. Ukra asmachta ba'al. And the pasuk that we just learned it from was merely an asmachta. But the real issue that you would get proper malchus for is only if it was mixed the chelboin and the chelboin, so we know it's from an oif tameh. There they would be malchus for sheretz al aretz once it's partially developed. Tanu Rabbanan, gi'ulei beitzim mutaris. What are gi'ulei beitzim? Rashi says right on top, beitzat tazmeya shenishpash lematahir. What if you cooked several eggs together, and you cooked a kosher egg together with a treifin egg? The shell is still on, the shell is still intact, but some moisture is going to escape through the shell. Nevertheless, mutarais, we're not going to answer the kosher egg cooked in the same pot due to the fact that it was cooked in the same pot as a non-kosher egg. Beitzim muzaris. Muzaris means she'enon shel zachar. Whatever every egg that we eat is a beitzim muzaris. It's an egg that was never fertilized by the male. So the halach is nefesh yofatay. It's not for the finicky person. Only someone who's tough who can handle it. So Rashi she'enoi ishtinis ve'indaite kotzabahem toichlem. Only such a person can eat it. The alpha p sheyosh v'aleim tainagoyel shem rabbit. Even though the chicken sat on it for a long time, it's not going to be very geschmack. It's already ichi inside. Only someone who has a strong stomach and a very strong mind can eat. Nimtza aleh kairta. What if you find a drop of blood, a blood drop, which is very negay today? Zorik es adam, you throw out the blood. That's how we pascha nowadays, because all of our eggs today were not fertilized. There are no roosters running around in our chicken coops. So therefore, even if there's dam there, we don't need to be concerned. You just throw the dam out, and the egg is 100%. You're allowed to eat it. However, there is some qualification. You have to look at where in the egg the blood strop is. As Rashi says, the zera of the male somehow gets connected to the round part of the egg. And as the egg and the embryo inside the egg starts to develop, it starts to develop from that point where the male portion, where the male's input was left. If you still see the male's input right there on the round part of the egg, it's an indication that it didn't penetrate. Therefore, But if the zera of the male has penetrated to the point that it's already in the yellow part of the egg, then kula asura. That means there's a developed efrayach here, and you would not be able to eat that egg at all. Once its zera is already penetrated into the egg, and that egg may not be. Again, by us, that doesn't happen because by us, there are no males kept anywhere near the chicken coops from where we extract our eggs. The only time we say that a blood drop could be thrown away and you can eat the egg is only if the blood drop was found on the white part. Then afilu beya asura, the whole thing is usur. My time, as Rashi said a moment ago, shada tichlavaku. That means that the problem has already penetrated. Rashi teaches the word tichla was shikol v'reis. The problem has already spread to the point where the whole egg is now usur. Amalei Rabbi Gavia bebei kasil l'Ravashi. Ibcha tani tana kamei davai. The opposite was presented in front of Abaye. So Rashi Tana Echad Hoya Shoina Isolofanov, a Tana said over this halacha in front of Abaye, Ibcha, and he said Loish Shonu Al Shenimtza Al Chamoinchel. He said if you find the blood on the yellow, that's where it's not a problem. You could throw it away. But if you find the blood on the white, then you do have a problem. But Abaye who the Tirchin Halai, and Abaye answered this kasha, just like we said. Hachi Amar Chizkiya, Minayin Lebetas Tveya, Shiasura. That's fine. So Abaye is the one who fabricated corrected and said it's the opposite. If the little blood is found on the chelboin, on the white part, then and only then can you throw it away and eat the rest of the egg. But in fact, if the blood was found on the yellow, then the whole egg is also to eat. Zog to Gemara weiter. Omar Chizkiya. So Abaye who the Tarchin Alei Hachi. Abaye is the one who explained it this way. Omar Chizkiya. Minayin lebeitzas tmeya she'asura min haTorah. How do you know that if you eat the egg of a non-kosher animal, how do you know it's asur min haTorah? Zog to Gemara. The teretz is because it says shenemar ves bas hayana. Now the name of one of the birds that the Torah lists off, that's a Timeya, is the Basayana. That's its name. But we're sort of darshaning the word. Bas indicates that it was a normal bird like a mammal. Something that lays an egg, the Torah wouldn't use the word Bas to describe that relationship. So Frank the Gemara on this pasuk, V'chibas yeshlo liyada, can a yana have a child born like a mammal? No. Ela zu beya tameya. This is where the Torah is telling us that basayana, not only is the yana usher to eat, it's also usher to eat the egg of a yana and huadin, the egg of any other animal that's not kosher. So again, basayana really is one word, it's the name of the bird. But we're darshaning the fact that it says bas, that it must be telling us, the Torah must be telling us that the egg of any animal that's usher, that lays eggs, the egg will also be usher. Frank the Gemara, how do you know that's what it means? That's what it's saying. Maybe Pashup Shat. Vidil Mahainu Shmai. That's what it's called a Bas Yana. The Torah's not telling us that the daughter of the Yana is usher. Bas Yana is its name, so you can't make this drasha. Zok the Gemara Loisol Kadaita. It's not mistaber to say that the Bas Yana, that's the name. Rather, it literally means the daughter of the Yana. That's what it must be. Why do I make that argument? The Chsiv, it says in the pasuk, Bas Ami, the daughter of my nation, La'achsar Keyenim Bamid. So let's look at the pasuk. It says, Techavdeni Chayas Ba'aret. No, it's not there. It says, Gam tanim cholzu shade heniku gureyan. Even I guess these big fish nourish their children. Bas ami la achsor, but my children are like an achsor kayenim ba midbar, like ye'enim in the midbar. So you see that it's referring to the daughter of my nations. So it says v'dilma hainu shmarayu. So kedaitach to siv bas ami la achsor kayenim ba midbar. Took Rashi kayenim alma yanishma v'loy bas hayana. If the name of the word is bas yana, it would say Basami Lachser Kabasyan Bamid. It says Kayanim Bamidbar. So that indicates that the name of the bird is Ya'inim. And Bas means the daughter of, and therefore we can say that it applies to an egg. Zakmar Valoy, Vaksiv Esa Mispaid. Let me read it from Esa Mispaid Kitanim, the Avel Kibinois Yana. So there it calls it Benois Yana. Zok Gemara, that's not what it means. That it's like a yana. Dr. Gemara, what it means is it's like a mother yana that is mourning on its children, the bas hayana. So therefore you can't bring me right from there. Just because it says kayana zu shemis abelas albonel. No, I'm sorry. Just because it says the Abel Kavnois Yana, it doesn't mean there's going to be Avelos like the bird that's called Benois Yana is Misabel. No, it means we're going to have Avelos like the mother mourns over the Benois Yana. So once again, I can touch that as Benois Yana, meaning the children of the Yana. So we don't have a right that that's its name. I vaksiv the Shachnu Sham Benois Yana. So there it seems to be talking about the species of a bird that's called Benois Yana. So it's Gemara, Kiyana Zusha Shechenes in Benel, it's the same thing. It means the Shach Nishom Benois Yana. They will rest there like the Yana rests with its children. So once again, you don't have a raya that the name is Bas Yana, rather the word Bas could be referring to the child of the Yana. I Bachsiv, Tichabdeni Chayes Asada. Tanin ubenois yana. So there it says that it is there. It says that there Chlor says that benois yana is the name of the animal because they're machabimi. V'sol beitza. If you're going to say that in this case it means an egg, beitza bas meimar shirahi. The Torah is saying that the chayes is not machabimi by saying shira. Who says Shira? Benois Yana. If you're going to learn that Benois Yana refers to the eggs, and that's how you wanted to know that the eggs of a Yana are also kosher to eat, no one's going to suggest that the eggs of a Yana can possibly say Shira. Mamela, a bird can say Shira, but how's an egg going to say Shira? Beitza bas meimer shiri, ella ksiv hayana, uksiv bas hayana. It says sometimes Yana, and it says Basa Yana. The shiny hocha, the posak sifra l'shtei tevois. The reason why we say that even though its name might be Bas Yana, but we say it has to mean, in this case, the egg of the Yana, is because when it's written, it could be written on two different rows. So, for instance, Bas could be the last word on one line in the Torah, and then the next line can begin with the word Yana. So therefore, you see there's a separation. It's not one word. When we deposit Lu Safra, Betarti, before we turn over, I just want to make a quick comment. The Gemara says here that an egg couldn't possibly say Shira. So interesting enough, Rabbi Rosen spoke out from the Margolos Hayam, who says that there's a big shaila with Chassidim. What says Shira? Does the Malach Hamamuna on an item say Shira, or is it the actual animal saying Shira? So those who say it's just the Malach of this creation that's actually saying the Shira. But if that's the case, this Gemara is going to be Shver, because clearly this Gemara says that an egg can't say Shira. But if it's the Malach of the egg that says the Shira, so what's the difference? Even what difference if it's a malach of an egg or if it's a malach of a live animal? A malach can always say shira. So from this Gemara, it's mashma that the animal itself says shira. So Zok the Gemara, Vibal Basayana is separated into two rows. Umi the pasuk lahu safra betarti. I'm just going to turn over to the next just to finish this line. It must be that it's two different names. It says as Kedar La'omer. The pasuk Lusafer betray. The name Kedar La'omer is for sure the name of one person. Yet we find that it is put on two lines. The last word of one line can be Kedar, and the first word of the next line can be La'omer. Hachanami Ditar Shmein Inu. Are you going to tell me that Kedar La'omer are two separate names? The Gemara Omer Hasam B'shtei Tevois pasuk lahu. B'shnei shitin like pasuk. Kedar La'omer would be split up and it's written as two words, but you'll never find that a sofer will put the Kedar on one line and the La'omer on the second line, indicating that they're in fact one name. But the Bas Hayana, the sofer will have no problem putting the word Bas on one line, and the Yana on the other line, clearly to tell me that the bird is called Yana, and Bas means the child of the Yana, which would indicate to us that an egg is also osir, just like the non-kosher bird is osir as well. To finish off Samach Daled, and tomorrow we're going to learn off Tamachei. Avram Weisberg is going to say Shir in Shul at Shabbos, and then I'm going to say Mata Shabbos and Mitzvah Shem at around 10:30.
Shkoyach.